Thanks.
Hi. Thanks.
Last week, when we buried my brother, there was so much I wanted to say, and I couldn't do it. You see, I simply couldn't speak. I couldn't find the words. I couldn't express myself. What I wanted to say, and I couldn't find the words. I couldn't express myself. So I thank you for the second opportunity. And I'll do my best to tell you some things about Vincent. I'm not sure exactly how to begin. I suppose I should tell you that he was a lover. It's true. My brother, Vincent Van Gogh, the lover. He was a lover of God. He was a lover of love. And of course he was a lover of art. In his lifetime, he failed at all three. To say that he worked hard at all three would simply not be true. He didn't work at things. Vincent did not work at things. He attacked them. He surrounded them. He gathered his forces like a general going into battle. And then, with what might be considered as an overdeveloped sense of drama, he would attack. For years, he battled against everything. From the time he was 27, 10 years ago, until he died last week, he poured more energy, more love into his life and his work than any 10 men. I'm not going to ask you to believe he was perfect. He wasn't. He was far from perfect. In fact, he seemed to thrive on failure. Forgive me, but it's true. He never accepted even the slightest success. He once told me, Theo, let me tell you about success. The fireflies of South America are successful. They burn so brightly in the night, ladies stick pins in them to wear them in their hair. So much for success. He was terrified of it. He wanted it, he hungered for it, but he was terrified of it. He never allowed himself to believe that he had accomplished anything. For example, I sent him this recent article by Albert Aurier. Some of you probably read it. Now, Aurier is the most respected art critic in France today. He called Vincent the vanguard, the leader of the Impressionists. That's what he said. Vincent perceives the imperceptible and the secret characteristics of line and form. Under an incessant and awesome shimmering of every imaginable effect of light, polished to a brilliant and enchanting iridescence, gardens of flowers appear, like the most luxurious jewelry made from rubies, agates, onyxes, and emeralds, etc., etc., etc. A worthy descendant of the Dutch masters. Pretty flattering, wouldn't you say? What was Vincent's reply? Dear Theo, thank you very much for sending me the article. Please ask Monsieur Aurier not to write any more articles on my paintings. Insist upon this. To begin with, he's mistaken about me. To make pictures is difficult enough, but if I hear them spoken of, it gives me more pain than he knows. Yesterday, I sent off 3 parcels by post, mostly studies of autumn, giving me a lot of trouble. Sometimes I think they're ugly. Sometimes they seem good to me. You tell me not to worry too much. Better days will come. If I could one day prove that I have not impoverished my family, that would comfort me. My doubt it. Comfort? Vincent never accepted comfort. He gave it unselfishly, but he could never accept it. Was it comfort he was after 13 years ago when he wanted to preach the word of God? Yeah, that was his first great passion. He wanted to be a minister. He wanted to follow in the footsteps of our father and grandfather, and he wanted to preach. For 2.5 years, his letters were full of God and the gospel. Dear Theo, no day passes without praying to God and without speaking about him. May God give me the wisdom I need and grant me what I so fervently desire. Dear Theo, I have applied for a position as evangelist among the miners in the coal mines in Belgium. In the south, there's a district called the Borinage, with a population of laborers who work in the mines. I should like very much to go there, to preach to the poor. Light that rises in the darkness, says the gospel. Who will need this the most? Who will have ears for it? Those who walk in the darkness in the center of the earth. I begged him not to go, to come home, to stay with me, to work in a gallery, to wait for a better position. No, he had to go. He had to go bury himself in the misery of those coal mines. That's where he went to seek his comfort. Dear Theo, I write to you from the Borinage. There have been many cases of typhoid and fever. Most of the miners are thin and pale and look tired and emaciated, weather-beaten and aged before their time. The women, as a whole, faded and worn. Around the mine are poor miners' huts with a few dead trees, black from smoke, thorn hedges, dung hills, ash dumps, and heaps of useless coal. Sounds very comfortable, doesn't it? Theo, I'm a man of passions. Well, now that, my friends, is an understatement. He wanted to stay there. He wanted to make his life in that misery. He wanted to make his home there because he felt at home with the poor, with the peasants, with the outcasts, with the homeless. With them he felt at home. And he preached. Oh, my dear brother Theo. Your brother has preached for the first time in God's dwelling, on which is written, in this place I give peace. Your brother was deeply moved indeed when he stood at the pulpit, bowed his head, and prayed. Father, with thy name be our beginning. I am a stranger on the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. It is an old belief, but it's a good belief, that our life is a pilgrim's progress, that we are pilgrims and strangers. We come from afar, we're going far. The journey of our life goes from the loving breasts of our mothers here on earth to the loving arms of our fathers in heaven. Everything on earth changes. There's no abiding city here. It is God's will that we shall part with what is dearest on earth. We ourselves change in many respects. We are not what we once were. We are not going to be what we are now. The face that once had the early dew in the morning gets its wrinkles. The eyes speak of sadness. The air turns gray, or else we lose it. Ah, indeed, we only pass through the earth. We only pass through life. But God, by the things of daily life, teaches us higher things. That our life is a pilgrim's progress, and that we are strangers. But that we have a God who preserves strangers, and that we are all brethren. Amen. And in the name of Jesus Christ, I am the resurrection and the life. He who ever believeth in me, though he be dead, yet shall he live. He was just a little bit overzealous, don't you think? In the mine, there was a terrible fire. Many miners were killed. One man was so badly burned about the face and hands, the doctors gave him up for lost. Vincent nursed him day and night. He tore his own clothes into rags, soaked him in oil to make compresses for the burns. nursed him back to health. Because of this act, because of this very act of charity, our dear friend Paul Gogh, who's probably holding court in some cafe here in Paris, is probably telling people that my brother was crazy. Because Vincent believed that this Christian soul could be saved, brought back from the dead, and he did. Gogh knows he did. But because Vincent believed he did, he's telling people that my brother's mad. Certifiably mad. And when that miner went back to work in the shafts, Vincent wrote to me and said, Theo, I swear to you, in the scars of that man's forehead, I could see the crown of thorns of Jesus, the martyr. His parishioners loved him. They trusted him. You see, he believed that you have to be poor to preach to the poor. So he gave away all his possessions. He lived on bread and coffee. He covered his face with soot. He gave away his bed. He slept on a straw mat and a floor of a hut. Well, that was too much. It was too much for the church authorities. He wasn't exactly their ideal image of a proper servant of God, you see. So they forced him to give it up. They forced him out of the job. And he was lost. He was cut off, lost from everything, cut off from everything he knew. For a year he drifted, lost, searching for himself, for his life. I did a stupid thing. I'll never forgive myself for it. I told him that he was being idle. He wrote back to me and he said, Theo, you might see a bird in a cage. And you might say, now look here, this bird has everything it needs, yet it's being idle. But Theo, don't you understand that this bird is longing to fly, and I am that bird? I didn't hear from him for 2 years. Finally heard from him from Brussels. October 1880. Dear Theo, if I stayed a month longer in the Belgian Black Country, I should have been sick with misery. My only anxiety is, how can I learn more? How can I be of some use in this world? How can I serve some purpose and be of some good? For almost 2 years I endured misery in the Black Country, and my health has not been very good lately. But if I can only succeed someday in learning to draw well. There it was, finally he knew. He knew that the Black Country was not the end, it was the beginning. His passion led him to the Borinage, but there he began to see. He began to draw. I have sketched a drawing representing miners, men, women, going to the shaft in the morning, through the snow, along the path, along a hedge of thorns, shadows that pass, dimly visible. In the background, the large constructions of the mine stand out vaguely against the sky. I should like very much to make that drawing over again, better than I have done it now. And passion. Now what could stop him? What could stand in his way? He came up from the bowels of the earth. He stepped out into the sunlight. He washed the cold dust from his face and hands, and he said, I have started. Theo, I felt my energy revive, and I said to myself, in spite of everything, I shall rise again. I am the resurrection. I shall rise again. He had already done that, you know. It's true. Make of it what you will. My brother Vincent was born twice. The first time he was conceived in joy. He was born March 30th, 1852. But he was stillborn. They buried him at the graveyard at Father's church. Exactly 1 year later, March 30th, 1853, Mother gave birth again. They named him Vincent again. Every Sunday when we'd go to hear Father's preaching at the church, at that Zunder chapel, Vincent would see this tombstone that bore his own name. Make of it what you will. He was born twice. I shall rise again. I will take up my pencil which I have forsaken in my great discouragement, and I will go on with my drawing. Theo, without my knowing it, you have sent me money for a long time, thus helping me to get on. Receive my hearty thanks for it. I firmly believe that you will not regret it. In this way I learn a handicraft, and though it certainly will not make me rich, I shall at any rate someday earn my 100 francs a month. It is a hard and difficult struggle to learn to draw well. Well, that's true, that's very true. But not difficult enough for Vincent, not nearly difficult enough for my brother Vincent. His passion for art would have to wait. First, he had to fall in love, with love. He said, my life and love are one. It was one great disaster. Since the beginning of this love, I have felt that unless I gave myself up to it entirely, without any restriction, with all my heart, there was no chance for me whatever. And even so, my chance is slight. But what is it to me whether my chance is great or slight? I mean, must I consider this when I love? No reckoning. One loves because one loves. Now listen to this logic. When we love, we keep our heads clear. And do not cloud our minds. Nor do we hide our feelings, nor smother the fire and the light, but simply say, thank God I love. Pages and pages of this stuff, volumes he wrote, this about his love, that about his love. I hope not to leave a single thing undone that might bring me nearer to her. And it is my intention to love her so long that she'll love me in the end. That's it, my friends. Oh, this object of Vincent's affections had absolutely no interest in loving me. We're having him love her. It was an absolute disaster. But for Vincent, that was perfect. Theo, this summer, a deep love has grown in my heart for our cousin, Kay. Well, see, her husband had passed away, and what Vincent saw was her loneliness. He was not attracted to her, he was attracted to her sorrow. A deep love has grown in my heart for our cousin, Kay. When I told her this, she answered that she could never return my feelings. Then there was a terrible indecision within me. What to do? Should I accept her answer? Or should I keep some hope and not give up? I chose the latter. As if you had to tell her, right? I chose the latter, and I do not repent of that decision. He was outrageous, totally outrageous. Now, why not face reality? Why not save yourself some pain? No, that would make too much sense. Like a general, he planned his attack. He said, my position has become sharply outlined. I believe I'll have the greatest trouble with the family. For the present, I consider her refusal as a block of ice that I press to my heart to thought. Which will win? The coldness of the block of ice, or the warmth of my heart? Now we all know, everybody, all of us, except my brother Vincent knows that a block of ice when pressed against the heart produces a wet shirt. Yes. I approached her at first crudely, awkwardly, but still firmly. And then I said, Kay, I love you as myself. To which she answered, no, never, never. Very encouraging, wouldn't you say? When she said this, it was as terrible a blow as a death sentence. And for a moment, it absolutely crushed me to the ground. Then, in that inexpressible anguish of soul, rose a thought in me like a clear light in the night. Whosoever can resign himself, let him do so, but he who has faith, let him believe. Then I arose, not resigning, but believing. When I had firmly resolved not to leave her, I felt a certain firmness come over me. Then all things became clear for me. Then was my energy increased. Bravo, Vincent, bravo. I do not mean to be cruel, my friends. My brother Vincent spoke often of love, and beautifully. For him, love, beauty, God were one and the same thing. He once said, I think that everything that is really good and beautiful, of inward, moral, spiritual, and sublime beauty in men and their work, comes from God. And the best way to know God is to love. Love a wife, love a friend, something, anything you like, but one must love. That leads to God. Well said. Well said, Vincent. But why do you always seek out disaster? Theo, since I really love, there's more reality in my drawings. At present, I begin to feel that I have a draftsman's fist. Theo, I must see her. I must see her face again and speak to her once more. I want money for a trip to Amsterdam. Well, you laugh, but I sent it to her. I wish to God I never had. I wish that this one time, I had the sense enough to withhold the money. I might have saved him some pain because he went to Amsterdam. And when Kay heard he was coming, she left the house. So Vincent burst into the dining room and confronted her father. Where is she? Where's Kay? Her father said, she's not here. Well, he didn't believe that. He could not believe that Kay would actually leave the house to avoid seeing him. So he said, please, uncle, let me see her. Let me speak to her. I know I'm not successful yet, but I will be. All I need is a chance to prove myself. Please. Let me speak with Kay for as long as I can hold my hand over this flame.
I am a stranger on the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. A stranger on the earth. Theo, I write to you from The Hague. I'm staying in a little inn. I have found a woman, not young and not beautiful, rather tall and strongly built. She does not have the lady's hands like Kay's, but the hands of one who works. She is not coarse or common, and has something very womanly about her. She has had many cares, one can see that, and life has been hard for her. She's not distinguished, nothing extraordinary, nothing unusual. Theo, to me there is such a wonderful charm in that slight fadedness, that something over which life has passed. It is not the first time that I have been unable to resist that feeling of affection and love for those women who are so damned and condemned and despised by the clergyman from the pulpit. This woman has not cheated me. He who regards all these women as cheats, how wrong he is, and how little understanding does he show. This woman has been very good to me. Very good and very kind. The clergymen call us sinners, conceived and born in sin. Is it a sin to love, to need love, not to be able to live without love? I think a life without love is a sinful condition. I cannot, I may not, I will not live without love.
Is it clear? A woman of the streets. My brother's new love was a woman of the streets. And she was coarse, common, vulgar. Everyone who met her, including myself, was totally appalled by her. She had a nasty tongue, a vicious temper. She drank. She smoked cigars. So now, I was supporting not only my artist brother, but this woman, and her child, and her unborn child, and eventually even her mother. And you understand, of course, that now I was the one that had to deal with our parents. Vincent couldn't. That was impossible, always impossible. Every meeting between Vincent and Father ended up in pain. Nothing but horrible arguments. Father always finding fault. Vincent always becoming more and more stubborn, difficult. So I was the negotiator, and I tried. For some reason, I thought that I could make my parents understand the circumstances. Now, how do you explain this kind of situation to your parents, to a minister and his wife? Father, there's some news about Vincent. Well, it seems he's found a woman. No, Father, I don't think it's likely you know her, no. Oh, yes, Mother, yes, I met her. What is she like? Oh, interesting. Very interesting. No, Father, she's not employed. No. Vincent tells me she's given up her career. Oh, by the way, there's a child. Oh, yes, and then there's another. No, not by Vincent, no. Well, we don't seem to know exactly who the father is. For some strange reasons, my parents were not very understanding. Father said, we'll take legal action. We'll have him declared unfit to manage his financial affairs. We'll have him put into an asylum. Dear Theo, you say that, quote, only a few witnesses would have to declare that I'm unable to manage my own financial affairs. This would be sufficient to entitle Father to take away my civil rights and put me under guardianship, end quote. I take the liberty to doubt it. If you ask me, I don't think the family would try a thing like that. Oh yeah, Father is capable of it. But I shall fight him to the limit. Let him think twice before he attacks me. I doubt that they have the courage to do it. But if they should have the will and the courage, I can take care of myself. And I am not afraid. But in case you should learn that steps are being taken, please let me know. I ignore cheap talk, but as soon as they do something, I hope you would warn me. I know the law. I know a case of a man who, as his will was put under supervision, he warned that person who had him under his supervision that he had no right to curtail his liberty, and that he would have to let him go. Warned him a few times, quietly, but he was refused. After which, he knocked his keeper's brains out with a poker. He remained there standing quietly, peacefully, let himself be taken prisoner. The case was investigated. The result was an absolute acquittal. But in some cases, there exists a right to self-defense. You see, I know the law. It was war. It was war in the family. And for Vincent, it was holy war. He found a fallen woman. And he was saving her and her children from the streets. For him, this was holy work. He wanted to marry her. I asked but one simple thing. Let me love and care for my poor, weak, ill-used little wife as well as my poverty permits, without their trying to separate, worry, or hurt us. Now, what could I do? What could I do? I was caught between Vincent on the one hand and between my parents on the other. I had no choice. I used the only weapon I had. I told him, I asked him for the sake of the family to leave her. And I threatened to cut off his financial support.
Theo, you put me between two fires. Like my head has to be cut off. Then here's my neck. Do it. Before I found her, only a short time ago, I came home to a house that was not a real home. There was no wife and no child. These two great boys stared at me day and night, and there was no love. I don't know if you ever had that feeling which forces us to groan and cry out, my God, where's my wife? Where's my child?
Theo, a wife you cannot give me, a child you can't give me. Money, yes, but what good is it without the rest? You know, he could not be alone. He had to live for somebody. And the truth is, his work was getting better. He was growing. And of course, his financial needs were doing the same. He said, Theo, Kristen and I have eaten nothing but bread and coffee for 2 weeks since we had to buy some things for the baby. I owe the landlord 2 months' rent, and if he's not paid by tomorrow, he can immediately sell my furniture publicly. I work day and night, and I have a small drawing ready for you, which I will send when I have some money for a stamp. Please, excuse the postcard. Vincent. I finally asked him to approach some people to offer his work for sale. But he was too sensitive to do it. His shabby clothes, about his untidy appearance. He was so sensitive. I said, Theo, don't force me to approach people. Speaking to people about my work makes me more nervous than is good for me. Worn down. The truth is that Christine, after a year, he began to find out what the rest of us has known from the beginning. What he found so charming in the beginning, her temper, her manners, her cigars, now they began to wear him down. And in the end, he became convinced that she was going to return to the streets. So he left her. And I'll tell you, it was no blessing. It was very difficult. He was so lonely for her. And the children, especially the children. He was very guilty about leaving them. So now, bitter, lonely, suffering his loss, he turned on me. My dear brother, since things have gotten worse and worse for me instead of better, I must complain. Our friendship has received a bad shot. I now think of you somewhat differently. I can no longer think of you in the same way that in the past. You have this much in common with Father. You are cruel in your worldly wisdom. I repeat the word cruel. What could be more cruel than to deprive such an unfortunate, withering woman and her children of support? Oh, no, don't think that you can reason. It was just a question of a faded whore and her bastards. So much more than motive for deep compassion, which I showed in your tent. I'm doing my best to work on it. But please, don't think that the help you gave me in the past is a thing you're obliged to do. You are not obliged to do it then, and you're not obliged to do it now. It has been a voluntary thing on your part for which I feel, and I shall always feel a real obligation to you. I'm working on some drawings of the weavers. It would disappoint me if you were to send these back to me. It seems necessary for me to point out when I send you some drawings that you should at least show them to somebody. Last week, 3 times. I was asked 3 times by absolute strangers, why is it you never sell your work? Theo, this is the truth. You have never sold one single piece of work for me. Not for much, nor for little. In fact, you haven't even tried. Not so long ago, you told me yourself you were a merchant. All right, sir. If I send you a certain number of drawings, may I at least count on you showing them? You tell me my work is almost saleable, but, Theo, this is exactly where I was with you a few years ago. You have never shown me any sign that you believe in my progress. Your opinion of my work must be very low indeed if you won't show it. If you won't soil your hands with it, no sign you believe in my progress. Instead, there's the money, but for the work, nothing. I can no longer live on that. It is getting too longish, too cold, and too empty. He was amazing. The man was amazing. He was not ungrateful, just amazing. He lived on bread and coffee. Sometimes he'd go for weeks without a piece of meat. He saved his money for paints, canvases, and models. You know, this period was a very hard time. A very hard time. I don't know how we struggled through it. I sent him as much as I could and still be able to maintain my own affairs. But he was always needed, pleading for more and more money. Not for himself, but for the work. The work was really growing. I must say, I must be very fair to myself. Whenever I wanted to exhibit his work, he would not let me. There was always some excuse. I'm not ready yet. I don't have enough canvases to show. Oh no, this gallery's too dark. Well, that gallery has a bad reputation. We'll wait until I have 30 or 40 more large canvases. Then we'll show them. But only in your apartment. He would not let me exhibit his work. He survived. So I worked on at the gallery. And I found a wonderful wife. And Johanna has never once complained about the money that went to Vincent. Vincent painted, struggled, painted, studied, painted. It was a very strange time. He was at the same time of 2 minds about his work. Sometimes sensitive, sometimes secure. Sometimes he could be bitterly hurt by criticism. Other times he was secure enough to laugh at it. He said, Theo, I want my paintings and subjects to live. Not to satisfy the academicians, not to be academically correct, but to live. I want to paint what I feel, not what I see, but what I feel about what I see. I adore the figures by Michelangelo, though the legs are too long and the back sides are too large. I want to make those same incorrectnesses, deviations, remodelings, changes in reality, so that they may become lies, if you like, but truer than the literal truth. Theo, I'm finished at the Antwerp Academy. Finished. Rigid, formal institution, dead. My ideas drove the instructors quite mad. They were treating me as if I had some sort of a disease. Last week we were given this cast of the Venus de Milo to draw from. Well, I was struck by the power of that figure, so accentuated her hips. The instructor was a purist. He tore my drawing with furious strokes of his crayon. I stood up from my chair and I said, "You don't know what a woman is like, damn you. A woman must have hips and buttocks and a palace in which she can hold a child." That was the last lesson I ever took at the academy. He was struggling. He was struggling with new visions, ideas of his own. He was a better teacher than they. Oh yeah, he loved to teach. And the few students he had, they adored him. He even tried to teach me. Yeah, he urged me to paint. Theo, man. A dealer in art for quite some time. Did you ever think about taking up the brush yourself? I said, "No, thank you, my dear brother. No, I have this nagging habit which prevents me." He said, "What nagging habit?" I said, "Eating regularly." Well, he finally convinced me to try. How could I deny my talent to the world? The next thing I did, he furnished me with an easel, canvas, paints, brushes, and a whole lot of enthusiasm. He was standing behind me like this frantic mother hen, offering advice. Perspective, old boy, perspective! Give it depth. Balance that composition. Be forceful. And then he snatched the brush from my head and started scratching furiously on about the canvas. Just color here, a lot of lines there, some shading here, and a little bit. Be forceful. There, now you've got it all in. Don't forget to clean out your brushes. The oil might harden and they'll become useless. Well, this went on for a week. At last I was ready. The tempest of my genius was struggling to be set free. I selected this perfect little scene. A marketplace. Farmers with their donkey-drawn carts. Fruits, vegetables. Shining pewter from London. Fabrics, tapestries, some exotic places in the Far East. The scene was a collage of brilliant color. Oh, boy! Balance the composition, boy. Give it depth, be forceful. Perspective. There, done! I could hardly wait to show Vincent. I hurried home as fast as I could. Vincent! I have something to show you. I guess you've been wondering what I've been up to this morning, huh? Well, the fact is I've been painting. I want you to know that if ever I should get some recognition from my work, I will tell the whole world that you are responsible for my success. This strange look came over his face. And then he said, "Well, man, did you manage to clean out your brushes?" And then he went off somewhere, and I didn't see him for a couple of days. Just as well. One artist in the family was quite enough. He stayed with me here in Paris for a while. And I must say, his visit absolutely warmed me up. If he would have stayed with me any longer, I would have become quite ill. He was so strong in his opinions, so forceful, and fierce, absolutely fierce in his arguments. Our best friends found various excuses not to come to the apartment. Toulouse-Lautrec said, "Theo, please, tell him to go south. Fuzzy light." But while he was with me, we had some great times, some wonderful, exciting evenings of conversation. He met so many of the friends of the artists whose work he's admired. He met Pissarro, Surratt, Toulouse-Lautrec, Bernard, Gogh. They talked endlessly, hours and hours, about everything, about their problems, about their work, about the art dealers. Gogh. Monsieur Paul Gogh. I wish I had never introduced him to Gogh. That was tragic. That was the beginning of the end. Vincent moved south to Arles. I must say, it was good to be alone again. I was not feeling well. But he was lonely. Vincent was lonely. And he wasn't feeling well himself. He worked hard. He painted in periods of frenzy. And then he would drink to calm himself. Gauguin was in bad times himself. Oh, with a reputation as an artist, yes, but no money, no support. Well, for Vincent, that was perfect, absolutely perfect. Another soul to save. He said, let's bring Gauguin down to Arles for a rest. It'll be great for the both of us. We'll start a studio. We'll start a community of artists. Gauguin will head the studio. Vincent painted for weeks, day and night for Gauguin, to impress Gauguin, to make his room warm and cheerful. Says, let's buy furniture for Gauguin. Let's decorate for Gauguin. For Gauguin, everything for Gauguin. And he came. And Gauguin arrived. And for Vincent, for some reason, the earth shook when Gauguin walked. I don't know why. Gauguin was a fine artist, but Vincent was doing beautiful work by this time. They argued often. They worked together, they argued together, and they hoard together. I am writing in haste as we have loads of work to do. Gauguin and I intend to make a tour of the brothels pretty often, so as to study them. Yes. He's working on a portrait of me. Gauguin is working on a portrait of me. Gauguin is good for me. Gauguin is wide. Gauguin is brilliant. Gauguin is a bastard. That's the truth, I know him. Gauguin is a pompous, sarcastic, self-righteous bore. Well, they began to argue violently. Of course, Gauguin threatened to leave. Well, he knew how to do that. He had already deserted his wife and 5 children, left them without a penny. Vincent was exhausted. Vincent was terrified of being left alone again. And Gauguin knew exactly how to drive him right to the edge. He was very clever. Night after night, arguments. One night, Gauguin threw a drink in Vincent's face. Well, that ended that argument. But the next night, another argument. And this time, Gauguin paraded on to the night like a matador, leaving Vincent behind like a wounded bull. Vincent ran after him into the streets. Gauguin heard him coming. He stopped, he turned. They stared at each other in the darkness. Of course, Vincent couldn't hurt this God, you see, this God that walked the earth. So he went back to his room, and he hurt himself. Yeah, I'm sure you've all heard of it. This is when he cut his ear off, or part of it. He wrapped it in a cloth. He put a ribbon around it. There was a prostitute at the local brothel named Rachel. She used to mock her customers saying, 5 francs will cut off your ear. 5 francs will cut off your ear. So he took this down to the brothel and handed her the package. And he said, here's a remembrance of me. And then he went back in his room and he collapsed.
Dear Theo, I write to you in full possession of my faculties, and not as a madman, but as the brother you know. This
Well, love the poor, love the outcast, love the destitute, love the homeless, love even a bastard like Gogh. But when are you going to learn to love yourself?
Dear Theo, I write to you in full possession of my faculties, and not as a madman, but as the brother you know. This is the truth. A certain number of people here, there were more than 80 signatures, addressed a petition to the mayor describing me as a man not fit to be at liberty, or something like that. The commissioner of police then gave the order to shut me up for the good of the community. Anyhow, here I am, shut up in a cell under lock and key with keepers, without my guilt being proved, or even open to proof.
If I did not have your friendship, I should be driven to suicide. And cowardly as I am, I should commit it in the end. If the police had protected my liberty by preventing the children and even the grown-ups from crowding around my house and climbing the windows, as they have done as if I was some curious animal, I should have more easily retained my self-possession. In any event, I have done harm to no one. For the time being, I should prefer to remain inside as much for my own peace of mind as for other people. My dear friend Gogh, I take the opportunity of my first absence from the hospital to write you a few words of very deep and sincere friendship. I often thought of you in the hospital. The next 6 months were the best and the worst. Vincent's paintings have come out of the darkness. His colors were seasoned, bright. His draftsmanship was sure. And he saw the wheat fields and the cornfields with a special vision of beauty. He said, I feel as if nature had spoken to me. The doctor's report was good. Vincent himself was hopeful. But he had a relapse. And perhaps worse than the hell, the torment of his illness, there were the good people of the town of Arles. They considered him mad, some kind of a freak. In fact, they would have driven him mad. They laughed at him, they teased him, they chased him through the streets. They taunted him. They climbed the trees outside his windows. Throw us an ear, they would say, throw us an ear. In fact, they even threw garbage at him. When will you stop? When will you, what do you expect? What do you want your artists to be? Your thinkers, your visionaries, your philosophers, what do you expect of them? What do you want them to be? Will you not accept the contribution of the individual? Won't you just judge him for his work? Or must he satisfy your social needs as well? If your favorite poet touches your soul, makes a spiritual connection with the rest of mankind, isn't that enough? Must he also have proper table manners as well? If the artist sacrifices his strength, his very life to bring you his special vision of beauty, to decorate your walls and your halls, must he also be dressed by your tailor? Vincent was not mad, my friends. But he chose the relative peace of the asylum at Saint Remy. There, among the men, he found some peace. When he painted in the garden, the patients would just come and watch. Though here there are some patients very seriously ill, the fear and horror of madness that I used to have has lessened a great deal. And though you continually hear terrible cries and howls like beasts in a menagerie, in spite of that, people get to know each other and to help each other when their attacks come on. When I'm working in the garden, they all come to look. And I assure you, they have the discretion and the manners to leave me alone. More than I could say for the people of the town of Gogh. Now, everything that he was, all the passion, all the love for life, for humanity, for nature, it all came together in the brilliance of his work. He could turn out 2 canvases in a day. He'd start painting at sunrise. He'd paint furiously until noon, finish the canvas, eat a piece of bread, turn his easel in another direction and start again. And then in the evening, he'd stumble home exhausted, but with 2 magnificent canvases under his arm. Sometimes he'd paint at night. He'd put candles around his hat to throw light on the canvas. In the last 70 days of his life, these last 70 days, he turned out 100 pieces of work, 70 oils, and 30 drawings. In the last year of his life, he turned out 200 pieces of work. friends. He was sick. He was very sick. He had epilepsy. That's what the doctors told me. I have their reports. From Dr. Ray's physician at all, epileptic crisis. From Dr. Perron, chief surgeon of the asylum de Saint-Remy, attacks of epilepsy. He had seizures, a number of seizures. And when these seizures would come on, he didn't know what he was doing. Sometimes he'd eat his paints. One time he was found drinking some kerosene from the lamps. One time he was allowed to go out into the fields to paint. He didn't return. When they found him, he was clinging desperately to a tree. He screamed in terror when they tried to tear him away. He believed that his soul had merged with that of the tree, and if he left it, one of them would die. And when these attacks were over, he lived in terror of the next one, which he knew would come. But with all this, when he was well enough to paint, he painted. Through the iron-barred window of my room, I see a square field of wheat in an enclosure, a perspective above which I see the morning sun rising in all its glory. And then one day, one joyous, glorious, incredible, miraculous day, we sold one of his paintings, The Red Vines. It sold for 400 francs in Brussels. His first sale. I'd like to address myself to Monsieur Ernest Closson, critic, the author of the following. In The Red Vines by Vincent van Gogh, if one assumes an ordinary point of view in judging this painting, what does one say of the irradiating light, the diffusion of flaming rays, the vineyard in blood-drenched colors, and the orgy of warm and intense tonalities in which blood and fire appear to have usurped the place of color? One will say, and not without reason, it is madness. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Is this your contribution to the world of art? Are you a physician, sir? I think not. Then may I humbly suggest that you not judge my brother's health, but look at it and study his work. I wonder why. Why is it so necessary for so many of you to assume that he was mad? Why does it seem so comforting to you? This should have been a beginning. He had his first sale. It should have been a beginning. By now, he was living in Auvers. He had a room over the Café Revue. He was under the care of Dr. Gogh, a good, kind man with an interest in art. He had a beautiful place to work. He had his wheat fields and his corn fields and his sunflowers. He had someone to care for him, and he had got recognition, and he had sold. It should have been a beginning. Last week, I received a letter from Dr. Gogh telling me that Vincent had injured himself seriously and that I should come. Dr. Gogh was with him when I arrived. Vincent was sitting up in his bed, calmly smoking his pipe. His face was pale but peaceful. On Sunday, as usual, just before noon, he walked out into the cornfields near the edge of town, carrying his easel and a gun. He shot himself in the breast. He must have laid there all day in that hot sun because it was well after supper when he staggered back to the cafe, stumbled up the stairs, and he collapsed in his bed. I sat by his bedside. I took his hands into mine. He looked up at me with those blue, innocent eyes. He had that same look that he had when we were children. He'd broken one of my toys, and he said he was so very, very sorry for it. He asked my forgiveness for having cost me so much money through the years. He said he was surprised he was still lingering on. He said, I've been a failure at so many things in my life. I hope I haven't failed at this as well. Dr. Gogh said, Vincent, you have a strong constitution. Your wound is not that serious. Your chances of recovery are good. But he wouldn't have it. Vincent would not have it. That stubborn mule was not going to have it. He was going to succeed in his own death. We talked into the night about our childhood, about the wheat fields and the orchards and that old stone barn. Late in the night, I felt his hands weaken, and his voice was getting... I sat up on the bed and I cradled him in my arms. Kissed his face. He looked up at me. He said, Theo, I wish I could die like this. And then I felt his heart stop. I felt his sorrow lingering near me for those next few moments. And then something went out of me. He was gone. The minister at Auvers said that the church could not condone such a practice by allowing the service to be held there. So Revue closed the cafe. And we laid Vincent out on a billiard table, covered him with a sheet until a carpenter could be found to make a box for him. All his friends came. They all brought dahlias and sunflowers because yellow was his favorite color. Even Toulouse-Lautrec came. He was just released from the asylum at New Year's saying himself. We hung his last canvases about the walls, and Dr. Gogh arranged his canvas, his easel, and his paint box around the foot of the table. And the minister wouldn't come to the cafe, so Dr. Gogh gave the service. And his voice was so broken, I didn't even understand what he was saying. And I couldn't even speak. I couldn't say a word. We were even denied the use of the hearse. So Adeline Revue rode on horseback across the bridge to the nearest township called Marie. Crossed bridge. Borrowed a hearse from the abbey there. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we took him to the cemetery, to a beautiful spot near the stone wall next to the cornfields. All his friends came and gathered around. The artists, the merchants, the beggars, even the beggars off the streets. They knew he was a genius. They knew his genius. They knew how special he was. Vincent used to say, we take a train to reach another city and we take death to reach a star. With his passing, something sweet has gone out of the air. The wine has turned to vinegar. Oh, my friends, he was... I can't explain the sense of loss, that grief I feel. It is a grief without comfort. But I know that some of you who were his true friends share a measure of my sorrow. After everyone had drifted away, I was reminded of the words of Ernest Renan, Vincent's favorite quotation. To act well in this world, one must sacrifice all personal desires. We're not on earth merely to be happy, nor even simply to be honest. We are here to realize great things for humanity, to attain nobility, and to surmount the vulgarity that is in the life of nearly every individual. This was the credo by which my brother lived, to attain nobility for humankind. And he did. And now he's off somewhere quietly waiting for the rest of us. Now I've said the words, and I thank you for coming. I thank you. Now maybe I can find some peace. My only hope is that my brother Vincent finally finds the rest that he so well deserved. Life was such a burden to him. My friends, he was so my own brother.
When Theo joined his beloved brother Vincent in death, I think 6 months later in January 1891, I believe he died of a broken heart. I buried them together in a small cemetery amid the wheat fields of Gogh. Side by side, under a simple bed of ivy, they are joined together in eternity.